Such a broad topic that I could literally spend hours talking about resume writing. Instead, what I think I'll do tonight is to concentrate on a small aspect of resume writing, and then we can discuss it in greater detail. People usually ask me, what's the single most important thing that I could do to create the greatest impact for my resume? I'd have to say, of all the things that I could mention, things like typos, using the proper fonts, etc., I'd have to say that it's not tailoring your resume for a specific job role that you're applying for. I would have to say, of everything that you can possibly do, that's the one thing that if you could focus on, that would have the greatest impact. So you might think, well, how much can I change? My work experiences, education, training, they're all pretty much set, and I'm not about to lie about those things. Well, actually, it turns out that there are a few things that you could do to modify your resume so that it is tailored for a particular job application. In every resume that I work on for clients, what I like to do is list out that client's major skill sets so that they would be attractive to the prospective employer. And I call those things that person's skills and core competencies. And I like to put that right at the top of the resume so that when an employer looks at that person's resume, it's the first thing that they see. Now, these things can include a person's education, her qualifications, work experiences, volunteer experiences, or any type of expertise in a certain area. It's any attribute, really, that would be valuable to a prospective employer. Now, how do you know what would be valuable to a prospective employer? Well, you simply look at the job description that you're applying for. What I thought we'd do now is look at a job description that I recently worked on with my client. This is a job that he was intending to apply for. The title of that position is plant manager. So if you could just quickly have a look at this job description. Well, actually, let me just read it out. Okay, job description. The plant manager is an integral part of the Aquafeed Canada leadership team. That's actually a made-up name company. You will manage the physical facilities and supervise, lead, and engage the operations team of approximately 55 people to produce fish feed products as efficiently as possible. The plant manager is responsible for setting performance standards, managing costs, hiring and training, employee relations, and implementation of all maintenance and production programs. You will ensure the team is focused on customer service and quality assurance. You will lead a team in making capital investments to replace or improve plant equipment and machinery as required. As the ideal candidate, you bring 10 years of experience, preferably in the food science or feed milling industries, with a minimum of 5 years in a leadership role. You have demonstrated a commitment to customers, to quality and safety, and to building a team. Your experience is ideally augmented by a bachelor's degree in animal nutrition or a diploma in operations management. So having looked at that job description, what would you say are 2 or 3 of the most important skill sets or core competencies that an employer would find attractive? Can I get a guess from one of you?
Like leadership?
Rachel? Sorry?
Leadership.
Okay, leadership. Let's write that down. Okay. Anybody else? Actually three or four core competencies or skill sets that an employer would find most valuable if they're looking at your resume.
Working together as a team.
Okay.
Teamwork.
So, teamwork. Okay, let's get two more.
Food science.
Food science, okay. Background in food science. Okay, and let's get one more.
Customer service experience.
Okay, customer service. Okay. Actually, those are all pretty good. Suggestions: leadership, teamwork, a background in food science, and customer service. But if I had, as a professional resume writer, if I had to identify 3 or 4 critical areas, I would come up with this list. Okay, now this is based on the person's actual work background, so I'm not actually making any of this up. But looking at his resume, I would say that these are the things that would instantly attract the employer. Production expertise, that is manufacturing, operations, that kind of thing. People management and leadership. Number 3, capital investments. And number 4, animal sciences, academic background. Now, obviously, you have to, as a resume writer, you have to work with what you have. You can't make those things up, but having assessed that person's background, those are the 4 things that I identified. And one of the things that you have to do when you work on your resume is once you identify those 3 or 4 core areas, you have to then elaborate. What do you mean by production expertise? What do you mean by leadership? When you talk about capital investments, what are you referring to? So that's the second task that you have to work on. So let's look at the first item, which is production expertise. This is how I worded it. Production expertise. Served as operations manager at an animal feed plant for close to 15 years, possessing in-depth knowledge of the manufacturing, production, and distribution processes of aquatic feed. Plays an instrumental role in making technological renovations to the plant, troubleshooting problems with production, solving inefficiencies in manufacturing, and replacing outdated or inefficient equipment. So when you elaborate, when you talk about your core competency, you have to be as descriptive as possible. You have to be very specific. Like for instance, we're talking about in-depth knowledge of manufacturing, production, and distribution processes. And when possible, try to use figures or statistics, because that gives more substance to what you're saying. So in this case, I've said that this person has close to 15 years as an operations manager. And if you recall, the job description asks for 10 years of operations experience, preferably with 5 years in a leadership role. So this person definitely meets that requirement. In fact, exceeds it. And actually, I was quite lucky because, you know, when I think pretty much on that basis alone, that person would get the interview. But sometimes, you know, I'll be working with a client that may not have that particular requirement that is so important to the employer. Okay, so let's have a look at another core competency. Okay, this one here is people management and leadership. So what am I talking about when I say people management? Managed a team of 60 production workers at an animal feed plant operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The feed plant, not the guy. Skilled in interviewing, hiring, and training staff. Serves as a mentor to new employees and motivates staff to perform at high professional standards. So here, obviously they're looking for somebody who has experience supervising people, being the boss of people. And obviously this person has that requirement. He's hired people, he's trained staff. In fact, he has been responsible for 60 workers in a plant. And I used, rather than saying manage a team of production workers, I actually used 60 production workers because employers like to see numbers. They like to see stats. So whenever possible, try to put numbers into your description of your core competencies. Okay, let's have a look at one more. Okay, this one here is a background in animal sciences. Again, this is something that I think the employer would find extremely valuable. This person holds a bachelor's degree in animal sciences from UBC, graduating with a 3.8 GPA, won the Western Canada University Agricultural Scholarship for 2 years in a row. So, rather than just saying that he studied at UBC and has a degree in animal sciences, I actually put in he has a GPA of 3.8. Is it important to an employer? Possibly. I mean, it shows that the person's quite bright and actually has a very strong academic background in the kind of industry that he's going to be working in. Won a scholarship for 2 years in a row. Again, it shows that while he was in university, he was quite diligent, quite academically gifted. And so I thought that would be pertinent to the employer. So it's important when you list out these things that you want to be as specific and as descriptive as you possibly can. You might have to think about it a little bit. You don't have to finish your resume in one go. You could work on it and then come back at it the next day, and then perhaps you'll get more ideas. Now, the reason why I like to do it this way is that once you have all of your skills and core competencies laid out right at the top, it makes it easier for the employer to assess your suitability for the role. Now, obviously, you're going to be talking about a lot of these skill sets and competencies, as you describe your previous job history, your previous roles that you've had in your employment history. You're going to talk about all those things. But one of the great things about having a separate skills and core competencies section right at the top is that you make it so much easier for the employer to size you up. Right? It's the executive summary. And you have to remember that the employer is really busy. He's got a stack of resumes to go through. And then when you have everything that's laid out there for him to look at, for him or her to look at, saying that you're the person, you've studied the job description, you know that these are 3 or 4 of the most important things that the employer is looking for, and boom, it's all there, then you made it so much easier for him. Oops, I think I might cover it. Sorry. As I mentioned earlier, your core competencies and skills, they don't have to necessarily be from work. It could be from school, it could be from volunteer, it could be from co-op. As long as you're confident that you have that you're actually you're competent in performing these particular skills, then I think that's fine. Okay? Now, obviously, we know that it's going to be impossible to meet every job requirement that an employer is looking for. But you have to realize, and you probably know this, employers nowadays usually ask for more than what they can realistically get. So I think that if you can at least meet 70 to 80% of what the employer is looking for, then I think you have a reasonable chance of getting an interview. And the other thing too is try to when you write out your skills and core competencies, try to refrain from talking about things like strong organization skills, strong communication skills, or ability to prioritize, things of that nature. Those are what we call soft skills. Those are important, but unfortunately, most people claim to have those soft skills. And we know, realistically, not everybody can perform those skills as well as other people, right? So what I tell clients to do is to focus on hard or technical skills. These can be things like programming skills, customer relations, people management. Those are skills that not everybody has. And those are skills that actually gives you a competitive edge over somebody else. Okay? And then once you're done, proofread it, not once, but twice. And print out your resume, because you'll find that once you print out your resume or any document, you'll find that the errors, the typos come out at you. I don't know why that is, but it's a fact. So make sure you do those things, okay? And yeah, so that's my presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Yes, Emily.
A lot of positions I'm applying for, under the skills that they would like, they always include multitasking, good communication skills, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And me trying to target my resume to these positions, I often also name these skills in my summary. But I know that it's lame to do it, but if they were specifically requiring or mentioning these skills,
mm-hmm.
Like should we still be mentioning them in the skills, or what would you suggest?
I think part of what you have to do as a job searcher is you have to be a bit of a mind reader. Obviously, they'll list out those things. You know, must work well with others, must work well in a team environment under high pressure, et cetera, et cetera. But you have to be a mind reader in a sense that you have to figure out, what is the employer really looking for? What are the things that he or she would find indispensable in a candidate? And so as you go through the job description, you might be able to pick out things like must have a business degree, must have had 2 years working at a forestry mill, must be able to program in C++. If you can identify those things that are skills that not everybody else has, and that would actually put that candidate in good standing, then put those, and you have those skills, then select those skills and put it right at the top of your resume. Don't pay so much attention to, I think they just do it because part of me thinks that they're just trying to fill up space, you know, by putting, must be a good team worker, a team player, etc. But you really have to figure out what's important to that employer. If you were an employer, what would you be looking for? Identify those things. If you have those, then put them in your resume. Okay. The soft skills, everybody's going to say that they have good communication skills. So what you're trying to do when you send in your resume is differentiate yourself from your competitor, right? And in order to do that, you have to figure out what the employer is looking for and then zero in on that. Everybody else is going to say they're strong, you know, they're good people, you know, good team workers, and, you know, good team players, etc. Right? And so you want to be different.
Question. I love that idea of having like an executive summary of your competencies at the top.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, so for the rest of the resume, I can see some information being included.
Yes.
And then also even the
So there is going to be overlap, definitely. So if you have to refer back to some of the skills that you've highlighted at the top, try to change up the wording a little bit, okay? Or try to talk about a different aspect. Like, for example, let's look at oh, this is too small. Yeah, I wanted to, actually, it's too bad we ran out of power, but, okay, like for instance, let's look at people management and leadership. So I've said here, managed a team of 60 production workers at an animal feed plant, skilled in interviewing, hiring, and training staff. So if you're talking about your previous role, instead of saying exactly the same thing, you might want to say something like, built up my department from 10 people all the way to 60. Right? Went out there, heavily recruited people in a very competitive market. You might want to say something like, okay, and then I said skilled in interviewing, hiring, and training staff. So rather than just saying that same thing, you might want to say something like created a training program for my staff. So you want to talk about a different aspect. So yeah, you have to be a little bit creative.
I just want to show, like, so the key is to focus on those core competencies in the job description.
Yes.
And then not to add additional skills in other parts too.
No, you can. I mean, obviously, in every job that you do, you're always exercising different types of skill sets, right? And yes, by all means, when you in your employment history, as you talk about what you've done in your previous job, do mention all of those things, all of the skills that you've demonstrated, all of your accomplishments, and your responsibilities. The skills and core competencies at the top is really, it's really what you think are the most important things to that employer. And it changes from job to job, right, depending on what the job description says. So spend a little bit of time in that regard.
All right. And that's actually all the time we have right now.
Oh, do we? Okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks again.